Part 3. You will hear two students discussing a research project with their tutor. The project examines peer feedback and revision in first-year writing workshops. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Let us start with the pilot. What did it tell you, and what did it fail to control?
We asked 24 students to exchange short draft reports and then revise them. On average, students acted on more comments about structure than comments about evidence. That may be useful, but the review sheets were not consistent.
Exactly. Some students received a checklist with headings such as organization, evidence, and clarity. Others were simply told to write helpful comments. We cannot compare the revisions confidently when the reviewers were using different criteria.
Good. That is the main weakness. The draft length was acceptable, and the revision period was the same for everyone. The lack of a shared review framework is what undermines the pilot comparison.
For the main study, perhaps we should keep the two feedback formats but use the same marking rubric for the first draft and the revised draft.
Yes. And who should apply that rubric?
Independent markers. If the workshop tutor marks the revisions, they may remember which students received the checklist.
Correct. The markers should score both drafts using the same rubric and should not know which feedback condition each student was in. That gives you a defensible before and after measure.
I would also like to keep a short questionnaire after revision. Some students ignore a comment because they disagree with it, while others may not understand what the reviewer meant. The score change alone will not tell us why a suggestion was not used.
I agree that the questionnaire could help as long as it remains secondary. It should not replace the independently marked revisions.
Precisely. Use it to interpret the process, not as your primary evidence.
I am still uncertain about anonymous feedback. Removing names may reduce social pressure, which is useful. But if a comment is unclear, the writer cannot easily ask the reviewer what they intended.
Could we allow a brief follow-up discussion after the forms are returned?
Possibly, although that would weaken the anonymity. My point is not that anonymous review is unusable. It is that the limitation must be acknowledged when you interpret the findings.
That is a reasonable position. Keep anonymous written feedback in the design, but record the loss of clarification as a limitation.
So the primary outcome will be the improvement in the marker score between the first and revised draft?
Yes. The number of comments and the students' confidence ratings are potentially informative, but revision score improvement is the central outcome.
Before you hear the rest of Part 3, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
I have reviewed the questionnaire. I can cut it to 4 questions. Whether the feedback was clear, whether it seemed fair, whether the student used it, and why any advice was rejected.
Good. A short questionnaire will be easier to complete carefully. Retain it, but describe it as supporting evidence.
For the written comments themselves, could we code them by category? We could separate comments about organization, evidence, language, and formatting. Then see which kinds of advice lead to revision.
That would make the analysis stronger. It might also show whether students focus too much on grammar and overlook larger structural problems.
Yes, code the comments systematically. But before the main workshop, your reviewers need a calibration exercise. Give them 2 sample comments and ask them to apply the categories. If they interpret the labels differently, resolve that before collecting data.
I also think we should recruit from 2 degree programs. The pilot students were all studying education. If we include a second program, we can see whether the pattern is similar outside one subject area.
That makes sense, provided we do not claim that 2 programs represent the whole university.
Exactly. Broader recruitment is useful, but keep the claim proportionate. One more methodological point. The independent markers must remain blind to the feedback condition. Do not include the peer review sheets when you send drafts for scoring.
So, the revised plan is 2 feedback formats, shared marking rubric, blind markers, coded comments, a short questionnaire and a calibration task before the workshop.
Correct. That is a coherent design. It gives you a measurable outcome while preserving enough contextual evidence to explain the pattern you observe.
That is the end of part 3. Now turn to part 4.